You know, television's a wonderful medium, but you can't beat radio sometimes. Just look at this. Look, you see? www.bnradio.co.za. That's a streaming radio station here in South Africa. You can hear good music, good interviews, and a little bit of news, but mostly we entertain.
I don't claim to represent anyone. I have some strong views about the challenges that face us in this country and globally. And I do what really stirs the passion in my gut, which is back to my roots, being a grassroots social and political activist. I think that the world is fed up with the politics that we've seen, the sort of gravy train mentality, the predatory elites that have seized control of both the global economy and of our governments. So ultimately, the question is who controls power today? And we've seen what they've done with that power, the extraordinary human greed we saw that led to the economic crisis that followed the financial crisis in 2008, that threw tens of millions of ordinary people out into the street, into poverty. So what I see growing in the world is a new apartheid. This separates a small minority and a growing, even smaller minority of very powerful conglomerates controlled by very few people. And increasingly, the rest of us are serving them. We are working for them. You know, if you look back in my time, you know, we attracted mainly the people who were deeply committed to the sense of values of social justice, of social solidarity, and it was dangerous. It didn't involve, if you wanted to make money, you never went to the trade union movement or you went to politics then. So what happens is what happens in any country that's gone through a transition. It attracts all sorts of people, and it attracts people who are opportunists. So I think that is one of our challenges that we face in the country today. It's like there are really good people in the ANC, in COSATU, in civil society, in government, in the public sector, but there are also some very dangerous factions, the type of predatory elites today that don't run factories or run mines. These are people that act as middlemen. They rent seekers. They charge for people to have access and act as gatekeepers to people in power. They are the ones that really corrupt our state officials, that steal licenses, that steal from our school feeding systems. You know, and they have no sense of human value, of humility that characterize the struggle for freedom in our country, or characterize what the ANC stood for. I think there are many people that have gone into the ANC that certainly have lost their way, but I think the ANC still remains, in a sense, the anchor of our democracy. It remains the party that was at the lead of bringing freedom to our country, and I think it's very important that that contestation within the ANC is weighted in favor of those who want to take it back to its roots, that we are here to serve the people, not to serve our self-interest as individuals. And that public leadership and holding public office is about accountability, it's about transparency, it's about delivering the better quality of life we promised our people in 1994. I don't claim to be always right. I make a lot of mistakes, but I'm not accountable to individuals. I'm accountable to the principle of social justice. And that I will fiercely defend. My right to express myself, or other organizations to express themselves, to hold leaders in power to be accountable, and to speak truth to power. I have no hesitation in doing that. And I feel today we have consciously abandoned the dream of solving that triple crisis the ANC, that President Zuma talks about, that all the leaders and political leaders talk about, the triple debt of and challenge of poverty, inequality, and unemployment. And if we add to that the fourth pillar, which is growing corruption that's becoming endemic, we have to confront that. We have to confront it because we have to get back to the morality of our struggle for justice. It was about delivering a better quality of life to our people. The extraordinary scandal of textbooks not being delivered to children
Appalling.
6 months, 7 months into a school year. Not because we don't have the money, not because the books are not there, because we don't care a damn. Because it's not our children, it's the children of the poor. So if you really look at it and you think about how many public officials will go to a public hospital, how many of them will have their children in township schools? That is a wake-up call for us, because like we saw at Marikana, there is such a social distance, which Zwelinzima Vavi from COSATU spoke about, developing between the leadership and the membership and the grassroots communities, that it's reaching a crisis point where the only response that people can have, especially where we are no longer rooted in strong organization within those communities, the only way people can express themselves, the only language they feel their leaders listen to, is violence. So you have a situation of a community burning down a school or a library. It shows the depth of anger there. In fact, the dangerous trend is where we set the police in as our political enforcers, which is creating a really contradictory situation for those security forces, because these are political problems that need political leaders to solve. It is not issues you solve just by law and order enforcement. Although I argue strongly that these protests and the people that participate in it must obey the law. But to take a point that the security force is a point of dealing with grievances of communities about governance, about service delivery, is not the right direction to solve the problems that exist there. We're at that fork in the road today. You can choose the high road, where we are adamant and united around delivering more efficiently on the constitutional rights of people to better quality health, better quality education, to the housing, to the services our citizens are entitled to, where we can try and build a really serious partnerships, particularly following Marikana, where we don't just sign off a document on a social plan or what the charter demands, but we actually implement something. It's tough, it's complex, it is controversial, but we have to bite that bullet. And that's the choice that faces. Oh, there's a low road, which is what Andrew describes, which is greater social fragmentation and disunity, of increasing conflict, of growing corruption, and eventually a collapse. I think we must invert that pyramid of leadership. And actually, each one of us should become a leader. If I'm a parent and my child is in a township school, and I know the teacher there is sexually harassing young girls, why do I keep quiet? Why do I keep quiet when the textbooks don't arrive? So what we've got to do is mobilize a robust civil society in our country. Our country was not freed by individuals. It was freed because many of us, the majority in South Africa and the world, stood up and say, we have a choice. We can either choose to support a racial dispensation that discriminates against people on the basis of their race and color, or we can take a stand. I think we're at that point today. We can take a stand. If 50 million of us stood up and said, we refuse to cooperate with corruption, whether that's private sector, whether it's public sector, whether it's civil society. We refuse to collaborate with corruption. We demand accountability. We have the means. It could be the ballot box, it could be our protest actions, it could be the rights that we've won in our constitution. We can make South Africa the better place that we always wanted it to be.